Okay, let's go through and talk about this. Basically, we're going to go through Snohomish County real estate statistics, and then we're going to go through some Washington foreclosure statistics, and finish it up with the county foreclosure statistics. So what we have here is we have the market dynamics graph, median price for sale, under contract, and sold for the last 2 years. When you can see, when looking at the last 2 years, basically the for sale properties, that's the ones here in red, have come down 22%. The under contract have come down 20.9%, and the sold properties have come down 20%. Now, one of the things that I consistently bring up, what's very interesting when we're talking about these trending in a downward market, if we've come down approximately 20% in the last 2 years, you know, that's about 1% a month. The other thing that's very interesting too is that your for sale properties, the red lines, have depreciated more than the sold properties. And what does that really mean to us when we're talking to our sellers?
They're chasing the market down.
Actually, that's correct right there. They're chasing the market down. These sellers have actually lost more money by not pricing their home correctly and chase the market down. So if someone is having a discussion with you in relation to the pricing of their home and they want to overprice it relative to the market, you could say the average seller's lost almost an additional 3% in addition to depreciation in the last 2 years. Okay? Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
In other words, price your home correctly, get ahead of the market, and don't chase it down. Any questions? Okay, I'm going to go over to the market dynamics months of supply, months of inventory.
Hey Tom, where do you get these reports from? Sandy?
Yeah, from Sandy emails them out to all of us. Do you want, if you go into your email, you can type in June. That's what I just did. I went to my email, typed in June. That's how I pulled them up for the class. If you'd like, I can go make a copy real quick.
No, that's okay.
Okay. So right here we have the market dynamics, months of supply, basically looking at 2 years. It's really interesting. You kind of see this trend. So, you know, June down, December down, June down. However, this has been the longest trend right here. So if we look back where we were in June of 2010, we were at 11.8 months worth of inventory. Since June of 2010, so over the last 12 months, we've basically seen a steady decline in inventory. Right now being down to 4.3 months of supply. What is another way to think about the months of inventory? Another way to think about months of inventory would be there are 4.3 sellers for every 1 buyer. Okay? It's another way to put this into perspective. Another thing to think about in relation to months of inventory too is that 6 months is kind of basically what we consider to be a neutral market. Above 6 months would be a buyer's market. And below that 6 months, so definitely where we're at right now, is where you're getting into a seller's market. So very interesting, 12 months ago we were definitely heavy into a buyer's market with almost 1 year worth of supply. Since then, we've trended down to 4.3 months, definitely clearly putting us into a seller's market.
So, how do you get the 4.3 sellers to 1 buyer?
Months of supply. In other words, if no new properties came on the market today, it would take you 4.3 months to sell through the rest of the inventory based on today's current absorption. What that means is that there are 4.3 sellers for every 1 buyer. Because every time 1 buyer comes in, consider that 1 buyer to be 1 month. Okay, they're the ones that take that out.
Okay, I gotcha. Based on closing.
Yeah, exactly. It's based on absorption.
Yeah.
So what it is, it's the total number of active listings that are available divided by the number that just went pending. That's your rate of absorption in the last 30 days.
So, quick question. Why do you think we're low on inventory?
What are your thoughts?
We had quite a few sales last few months.
When we get to that category, we will discuss that, but the answer is sales have not jumped up.
Okay. So it's the banks just not unloading their properties?
What, anyone else? Before
I
I,
would say it's both. It's the fact that we've got less conventional sellers on the market because they're holding their property, and the banks are also holding a lot of properties that haven't been turned over into the market yet.
any thoughts?
Yes, I agree with
You concur? I don't know the exact answer, so the only thing I can do is guess. The guess is basically this, and when we get into the foreclosure stats, you're going to see it. Banks are canceling more foreclosures right now than they have before. They're trying to work out more loan mods, and apparently they're also trying to work out more short sales. The other thing, so what you're seeing is you're not seeing that bank-owned inventory come in. You're also seeing sellers who I believe are kind of fed up with the market, who are going to wait, who have removed their property from the market and said, no, it's not worth me selling in this low market. I'm going to wait till a later date in time, if they have a longer time horizon. Also, I think you've seen sellers exit the market too, due to them being fed up with their home not selling, and their home isn't selling due to the fact maybe it's overpriced, or the buyers are having difficulty getting financing, or maybe the agent that's representing them is not a full-time agent in today's market. We've seen a mass exodus of real estate agents from our market too, so I would say it's probably a combination of all of those. In relation to the foreclosures, CoreLogic just restated their numbers in relation to shadow inventory. They believe there's only 1.7 million units of shadow inventory right now, versus before they were saying 1.9. So that some of that inventory that's been hiding in that foreclosure, you know, I'm coming to foreclosure, I've already been foreclosed on arena, is actually starting to go down. We haven't seen a tremendous spike in the amount of properties that come back to foreclosure, so I think it has to be sellers fed up with the market, sellers leaving the market, and people waiting.
You may get into this, Anton. Are you going to go into the months of supply of foreclosure properties?
I didn't do that. I actually have to manually do that calculation, so I didn't do that again. If you really want to know, I'll put that together for you and email it to you guys.
Your estimate? It was 18 months last.
The last time that I looked at it, we had 11 months worth of foreclosures in Snohomish County that weren't on the market yet.
11 months,
11 months.
which is not in this.
Which is not in this, but I'll show you how I figured that out here in a second. I'm going to go into the putting it into perspective graph. Or actually, it's not a graph, it's a chart. Okay, so putting it into perspective, this is a great thing to look at in relation to price brackets, specifically when you're talking about it for your clients and your buyers. So out of the price brackets that we have, I mean, which one basically here in Snohomish County has the largest level of inventory?
200,
3 to 400.
3 to 400.
Okay.
Well, technically it's the 2 to 300 because they had to break that down into 50s.
Sure.
Okay. And so between 2 to 300, I mean, there is over 1,100 properties in that 2 to 300 bracket. If you are in that 2 to 300 bracket, you're a seller, you have the most competition. Also conversely, I mean, if you are a buyer, you're seeing the most amount of turnover in that 2 to 300 bracket. What that means is because that 2 to 300 bracket falls right into our median price range, that is where the majority of the homes that are affordable to most buyers in Snohomish County fall. Of course, you can see that under that price range, like for instance in the 120 to 160, with 310 active listings and a little bit over 33% of them turned over in the last 30 days. That's huge turnover because the 120 to 160 would be highly, highly affordable for most buyers. In the 120 to 160, they are probably purchasing for less than what they're renting for.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I have a home in Arlington right now. It is the cheapest home in Arlington, Joseph. You've seen that home on Alcazar. You could live in that home for less than what you would pay in rent.
The yellow one?
I don't know what color it is off the top of my head.
95 grand or something.
95, 100. I think they just raised it to 100 because they went through and cleaned it. But more of the story, I mean, it's only going to cost you probably $700 with taxes and insurance to live there, and the property was renting for $800, $900, $1,000.
800.
Yeah, that's perfect. This is the first time in the last 15 years, and this is just a guess when I say that 15 years based on the investors and stuff that I've talked to, that you started to see rents exceed mortgages in certain areas of our market. Great time to buy investment property. Another interesting fact too, I mean, if I am in the million and above, that's a bloodbath. You've got 86 properties on the market and 3 went pending.
The other ones are 0.
Yeah. In the 800 to 900, you've got, no, excuse me, 900 to a million, you have 25 on the market, 0 went pending, 800 to 900, 39. So in these ones, I mean, you got to do something to get definitely ahead of the market. What's also interesting to look at is which ones show the most sold activity, okay? And then which ones had the most expired activity. Once again, if you look at the 2 to 300, putting these two brackets together, that's going to make up the majority of them. Any questions or thoughts in relation to this? Okay, the Snohomish County Area Real Estate Statistics Report. So, getting back to what you guys were saying. Our total number of sales, when you compare year-to-date of 2011 to year-to-date of 2010, is actually down by 7.1%. So you had said maybe it was a jump in the amount of sales that took out the inventory. The answer is the number of sales is slightly down. Okay, and when you compare June of 2011 to June of 2010, it's actually down by 3% when you're just comparing the month to the month.
Wow.
So our sales are slightly down. So that's one of the things that's not accounting for the decrease in inventory. Average price. When we compare June of 2011 to June of 2010 for overall Snohomish County, we're down 8%. When you look at the year-to-date for 2011 versus year-to-date for 2010, we're down 11%. The median price for June of 2011 versus June of 2010 is down 10.6. And the median price for year-to-date is down 12.5. So we always need to bring this up. What's the difference between median and average?
Median's just the middle. 50% above, 50% below.
Median is the middle, and the average is all of them added together and divided by the total. Okay? So if the median is depreciating more than the average, what is that basically telling us? Means the upper price ranges are being more annihilated than the lower price
They're
ranges.
sticking on the market longer.
They're taking larger price reductions than the properties below the median. That's what that means. So, if you look at both the average year-to-date and the median year-to-date, you can say that we are depreciating at least 1% every month. Okay? So in relation to your buyers who are looking at homes, when they're talking about where is the market going, it's going down 1% a month. For your sellers who are thinking about selling, you know, and they're, let's just say they are the median price, okay? Median price was $250,000 for June of 2011. That means every day that they don't sell, it costs them, or excuse me, every month that they don't sell, it costs them $2,500.
When did it stop?
$1 million question, Jeff.
The $1 million question, Jeff.
The property's gonna be 0 eventually.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna go trade a chicken for a house.
Yeah.
No, I don't think that's gonna happen. Here's why. Boeing. Boeing right now, I know 3 people that work at Boeing. They're working doubles and triples to keep up. Boeing is hiring like crazy. They are one of our largest employers. That's a good sign. The things like that in the local economy are definitely going to help us out. I think realistically we're going to depreciate another 8 to 12% before we hit the bottom most likely a double-digit depreciation unless that hiring kicks in at a higher level or some other major employers hire too. And then the market's going to go flat. So in other words, right now, if looking at that depreciation graph before, it was trending in a downward direction. It'll keep trending down and then it will flatten off because you're not going to have anything that's going to majorly force the appreciation. And then what's going to happen is probably for another 12 months it will continue flat and then it will start to go up. So
Tell me 2013.
I'm telling you late 2013, maybe 2014 we could start to see appreciation. Because what's happening is our foreclosure market and activity is still trending in an upward direction. And what I mean by that is both the total number of foreclosures and then the amount of bank-owned REO inventory and short sale inventory in the MLS. That level of inventory has to go up and peak and start to come down before prices will be able to come up. Think of it in terms of motivated sellers. Who are our most motivated sellers in today's market?
People who are underwater in their homes.
Okay, so let's just call it the distressed homeowner. And that could be death, divorce, loss of job, loss of income, someone who's in a negative equity situation. Okay, someone who's more motivated than that most likely is a builder, because the builder doesn't have one mortgage. He probably has 10 or 12 that he's trying to get rid of at this time. Okay, and then the next one is going to be a bank. They don't have 10 or 12. They have 10 to maybe 100,000 properties on a national level that they're working to get rid of. So when these banks pull in these properties, their goal is to sell them in less than 90 days. Well, if our average time frame, days on market for June of 2011 was 87 days, and their goal is to sell them faster than that, what is the only method they have to do to outpace the market? Discount the price. If multiple homes in a neighborhood are being discounted, what does that do to the price? Drives it down. Okay. The other good thing that's happening to us, and we just saw it too, is the lack of supply. Lack of supply will basically create demand. Once more demand is created, that could help to ease this price decline quicker. If there aren't homes available, especially in that lower price range, and we're seeing this on our team, and I know you guys are seeing this too. It's where there's that one house, and it gets 8 offers. Okay, and that's because the lack of available and affordable inventory in those price ranges. That will help to bolster up pricing. Okay,
That's a good point. Because I have a property that I thought would be a pain in the ass to sell, and we sold it in 2 weeks, and because the agent said there's nothing out there, for them to purchase in that price range.
yeah, exactly.
Well, I know, Jeff, too, nationally they've said the upward trending won't start again until 2015,
Yeah.
based on case shiller pricing and everything else. So.
If our month of inventory keep declining, 4.3 is, well, it's been, who knows, last 2 years.
Yes, it is, exactly.
That's going to be a factor.
I think it's the lowest it's been in the last 3 years. Maybe even longer than that. At one point, we were up to almost 16 months worth of inventory. That was about 2.5 years ago. We had quite a bit of properties on the market. Okay, let's go through these ones specifically. So the city of Snohomish, what they're experiencing right now, their total number of sales for June versus June is down 12.3%. Average price, June 11 versus June 12, is down 8.5%. Year to date, they're down 12.2%. The median for June of 11 versus June of 10 is down 16.1%. And then year to date down 10.9%. Okay? You mentioned Marysville. We're going to flip all the way down to Marysville then. Just because Marysville right now is a bloodbath.
Jesus.
June of 2011 versus June of 2010, we're down 31% in sales. For the year to date, we're only down 7.3%, which more mirrors the overall Snohomish County trend. Okay? The average price is down 20.4%, with year to date down 14.5%. What this means most likely in June, because that is such a large drop, and the year to date, it exceeds the year to date by so much, is that just June was a slight anomaly, and we sold a bunch of cheaper houses in Marysville than we usually do. Okay, that's why the year-to-date isn't down as much. Make sense? But the year-to-date is still outpacing overall Snohomish County, so it is worse than the county. Because you see the exact same trend in the median when you compare June of 2011 and June of 2010, down 21.3%, and the year-to-date down 15.5%. Average time on market is, basically almost exactly the same with 89 days in June of 2011. Looking at the rest of our cities, Bothell sales in June were up slightly, down a little bit for the year. Average price doing much better in Bothell. Okay, much better in Bothell. Why would Bothell do better than Marysville?
Because it's located more towards the big cities.
Absolutely. Bothell has a much higher median price. As you can see in June, the median price was $351,551. So you've got a higher level of income that lives in that area, and you're located closer to major job centers. Okay, so they're definitely performing better than Marysville. Lake Stevens, slight uptick in sales in June, but year-to-date overall sales is down 22.6%. That's definitely outpacing the county. Not quite sure why it's declining more in Lake Stevens. Lake Stevens also saw the same anomaly that we see in Marysville, where June of 2011 versus June 2010 was down 20.6. But year-to-date, they're only down 13.5. Median price down 21.9, and year-to-date down 13.1. City of Linwood, sales up by 15%. June, down 2.5%. Year-to-date, down 10.6. And the median price, June 2011 versus June 2010, down 11.9. And the median price year-to-date this year versus last year, down 14.2. Everett is basically faring slightly better than Lake Stevens and the city of Marysville. Year-to-date sales down 7.1. The year-to-date average price down 12.9. And the year-to-date this year versus last year, median price down 10.7. Any thoughts? Okay, second page. This month of inventory calculation is done slightly different than the market dynamics one. That's why it's a slightly different number, but it's still great to look at. It's saying overall Snohomish County has 5.1. Relative to last month, that is also a slight trend down. Linwood has 4.2 months worth of inventory. Marysville has 6.4. Monroe 4.3. Everett 4.1 months of inventory. Lake Stevens 6.9, and Snohomish 7.4. So basically, if you're looking in Monroe or Linwood, very clearly into a seller's market. Snohomish still being a bit of a buyer's market, with Marysville and Lake Stevens currently in more of a neutral market. Questions or thoughts?